Hi, everyone. Welcome to Big Sigh as we start the show. Welcome to episode 396 of the All Dolphins podcast for Thursday, October 31st. Happy Halloween, Dave Hyde at Dave Hyde
Well,
Sports, South Florida Sun Sentinel.
I should have dressed up. I got my pirate outfit and everything, and I was rushing to get on, and I should have pulled it out.
My go to, I have three go tos, and I have a hot dog. Yeah, but that's every day. So I have a hot dog thing that you put over the big wiener. I have two T-shirts. One said very simply, "This is my costume, so now give me the damn candy." And then the other one was, see if you get the reference, "A man has no costume."
There you go. Okay, I like that. I like that. I'm
Yeah,
I'm, I'm down to one. I got one costume. That's it. My pirate. And I roll that out every year.
every year. There you go. No need to get overly creative. It's once a year. Uh, so it is October 31st, 3 days before the Dolphins go into Buffalo with a 2-5 record in what would you agree essentially is a win, or let's start planning for the future.
Yeah, I mean, officially, it's that. I thought the Arizona game was um, the clock was striking midnight there. So sure, they gotta pull a lot of games out of their hats from here on out to resurrect the season.
And if they do so happen to fall short, I know blasphemy because they never lose in Buffalo. Sorry, we've reached a sarcastic portion of the show. Uh, Now, if that happens, do you envision a some kind of a reset where certain assets are disposed of? And I'm not talking about the main guys because I don't see any scenario under which Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, certainly not Tua, or players of that type would be moved, but perhaps some of the, you know,
What
less.
I mean, the only thing would be if you want to do a favor to Calais Campbell and trade him to a contender for a seventh round pick. I mean, that would be more out of football euthanasia, and for a guy near the end of his career who's just a great guy. I mean, just a tremendous person. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But as far as resetting the franchise or making some big philosophical change, there's nothing to be done right now. You're not going to trade. If you're going to make a big trade, it's going to be in the off season. You're going to have more teams involved and a better understanding of what you can get than the guys who get traded now are typically their contract runs out next year. So I mean, Javon Holland, I mean, he's hurt. How are you going to trade him? Um, the other thing you could do is play young players. This team doesn't have any young players. I mean, look at the draft the last 3 years. They're playing. Chan is it. He's the guy. I mean, Cam Smith, he's active. He's active. But, okay, it's a year and a half now for a second round pick. So, again, I'm not ruling out anything happen. I've seen it all happen, but that's a wasted year and a half right now. I don't know. Your Chop Robinson's playing now, and you see what he's doing or not doing. Um, Second round picks on scholarship till next year. So what young players are you really going to play? So to me, this is what the season's going to be.
Yeah, and this is where there's such a contrast between the Dolphins and some of the AFC powerhouses, I should say, like Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore, is they always seem to have somebody ready in the pipeline to take over when you lose a veteran. And the Dolphins somehow just don't. And this is the price they paid for acquiring and making those big trades for Tyreek Hill, for Bradley Chubb, for John Ramsey, where they lost premium picks, which reduced the number of opportunities they had, and their hit ratio, while probably not significantly lower than the rest of the NFL, hasn't been great either. And when you have Bradley Chubb injured, that compounds it because now you don't even have that guy.
Yeah, and then look at Laramie Trent Tunsil started it all. Big trade. They got a ton for him, but just replacing Laramie Tunsil, look what they had to do. They tried Austin Jackson. He didn't work. They tried Liam Eichenberg. He didn't work. There's a first, second, and third pick right there. Then they went out and had to pay big money for a guy who's a great guy, great career, great leader, great great player, but you're never sure from Sunday to Sunday is he going to be there. And then compared to Kansas City, the Tyreek Hill deal, obviously, look, the Tyreek Hill deal worked exactly as the Dolphins would have hoped, except for one thing: they aren't contenders. You got to win when you make that trade. Kansas City had the second youngest defense in the playoffs last year. Second youngest. Think of that. They won the Super Bowl with a young defense. Okay. The Dolphins have the oldest team in the league this year. Again, you make those trades, you got to make them work out. Kansas City made a bold trade there, got a lot of draft picks, got some help. Some of their picks didn't work out, but, like McDuffie, Pro Bowl cornerback, they worked out. So, two different teams, two different methods, and the Dolphins hasn't worked.
No, and the thing that's depressing about when you look at where the Dolphins are compared to the Chiefs, for example, you mentioned the defense. They lost a guy who last year was one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL in L'Jarius Sneed because of a contract deal. You're too expensive. Let's trade you to Tennessee. And their defense is even better. I mean, it's like they don't skip a beat. They're just plugging somebody else in. And it's like, my Lord, it's like a machine. And the Dolphins are nowhere near that machine, nor were they last year, even when they were 11-4, because you always had that.
Yeah. And that's why there's such questions swirling around now. I mean, here we are again. They started this change of philosophy in 2019. McDaniel came on board a few years ago. And here we are and talking about a reset again, or what do you do if they lose Sunday? And to me, everything goes back to Steve Ross's desk at this point again. And let's just be honest: he's giving everything you want an owner to give, as far as money, as far as support, as far as in the community. But his football decisions haven't worked out. None of them from when he started. You can't name one that says, okay, that thing was really good and it worked out for him. And so that's where everything has to change. If we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, obviously, but these are the questions that are going to be swirling around the Dolphins.
Yeah, and we were like talking about this, assuming they're going to lose at Buffalo because it's what they've done since 2016. And again, if we're talking like changes, especially if they do fall to 2-6, it's not going to be the big guys, because here's the thing: the Dolphins locked themselves into Tua with this contract for the next couple of years. Well, if they have Tua at quarterback, they need Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver, which is why they extended both. So those two guys are not going anywhere. You need Mike McDaniel to maximize Tua. He's the guy who maximized Tua. It's very hard for me to envision Mike McDaniel going anywhere as long as Tua is the quarterback, and Tua is not going anywhere based on his contract. Am I wrong?
Well, let's counter that idea. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not saying what should happen right now. Okay, there's a lot of season left to play out, and there's a lot of time for Steve Ross to come to some type of conclusion. So, but to counter that, if I was countering that, what I would say is you're going to have to hire a GM or a head of football or something like that. He's going to want to bring in his own coach. Okay, how many do you want to? Now, maybe he loves Mike McDaniel, and that'd be great. But do you really want to bring in another hodgepodge where you're trying to marry two parts that don't fit, which is what Steve Ross has tried almost entirely since he's been here. So Steve Ross had it right twice. Went out for Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, those Harbaugh brothers. Damn them with J's. And he got played there. And he wanted Sean Payton and Tom Brady, and that blew up in his face. Okay, so but to me, if you're going to replace a GM with either a head of football or a general manager, he's almost got to pick his own coach. And who's out there right now? I mean, the two names that are out there and obvious, and I'm not saying this is the pool that they're going to be picking from, would be Belichick and Vrabel. Okay.
They're not hiring. Come on, they're not hiring Belichick to go beat Don Shula.
I agree. Complete long shot, but you got to throw it out there.
Yeah.
You got to throw it out there. And should they be tied to Don Shula's legacy? Would that be an immediate X for you that you can't hire Belichick because of that?
Oh, I think you'd lose you'd lose some of the fan base. They would go nuts over that.
I'm not saying it'd be a popular hire. I'm not even thinking from that regard, but that's an add-on. There's other questions too. But Vrabel would be an interesting hire. Okay. Now he'd probably want like Harbaugh, both Harbaugh brothers right now want control over what's going on in the franchise. Okay. And so um, they lose Sunday, nobody's job safe. That's just where we are.
That's fair. But here's my thing with Vrabel, who I think is a tremendous coach. Do we really see Mike Vrabel running an offense with a focus on Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle?
No,
Like,
no,
correct.
and that'd be. Um, I mean, let's look at one of the moves that anybody coming in and wanted to change this offense to do. You're going to trade one of the receivers, right? Do we need two small, fast, quick receivers when we need so many other parts? So I mean, but no, I don't see Vrabel running that type of offense. Of a, he's more of a power guy. He's more of the, 50-50, and we want to be able to run the ball, be physical. Et cetera. But the question with him, who's he get for his personnel? Who's he get to run his offense? Because he's more defensive. So again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But what else are we going to do?
Okay, well, let's think positively then. How and why will the Dolphins win on Sunday, Dave Hyde?
How will they win? They will have to go full rudder reverse on all their fundamental mistakes. And they've done that on the penalties. Okay. You got down to 2 penalties on Sunday. So that's been cleaned up. The past 2 weeks, they haven't really been a primary issue. Now, what do you do about putting the ball on the ground? 4 fumbles on Sunday. Now, only one of them cost you, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a very important play. The snap to Tua that he didn't handle or was too hard, however you want to phrase it, went out the end zone, safety. Never good when you're up, and that's was the beginning of Arizona's comeback. Okay, the previous week you had 2 fumbles and you lost both of them. That cost you the game. This time you had 4 fumbles and you half lost one of them on the safety, and it didn't cost you the game. It obviously didn't. But you're talking how to beat Buffalo. You got to clean that stuff up. You can't constantly be putting the ball on the ground. You got to clean it up like you did the penalties. And then we get into how do you score on Buffalo? Buffalo has had the Dolphins number defensively of late. 20, 14, 10 points the last few games. This is with pretty much everybody on offense out there. And Buffalo's defense was missing like 4 or 5 starters the last time down here for the playoff spot and ranking and et cetera. So to me, that's number one. The other thing, how do you stop Josh Allen? The Dolphins are 31st in sacks. They're not getting any pressure on a quarterback. And this is a quarterback. He can beat you throwing. He can beat you running. He's thrown 14 touchdowns and 1 interception this year. And the 1 interception looked to be last week when Amari Cooper didn't make the proper cut. So basically he's playing perfect ball right now. And he has it out for the Dolphins, I'm sure, because they didn't pick him in the draft or trade up to get him. They said, word gets back. They didn't think his accuracy was enough, and Buffalo jumped ahead of the Dolphins and took him. So these are the little things. Look, Dan Marino had the same chip on his shoulder for teams that I've said this before, I don't know here, that during that draft in '83, when his name was falling, his dad walked over to him on his couch in their Pittsburgh home and said, "You'll get a shot at all these teams." I'm sure there's players look for little motivation. I'm sure there's some motivations for Josh Allen. So perfect game. That's how you beat Buffalo.
Yeah, no major challenge there. Okay, here's another question. This is where we are right now on Halloween. Right now, 2-5, staring at 2-6. The Dolphins are at their lowest point since.
Ooh, that'll take some going back and dusting off some things. Um, from a football standpoint, okay. I mean, they've been at low points, Bullygate and all that. But from a football standpoint, has to be lowest point since, oh my God, 2007 when they were 1-15, because of all the, it's not just the record and all, it's all the investment
Correct.
that went into this window here. Okay, sacrificing 2019 and 20 basically. Um, so all the way to trick the system of tanking and then signing all these free agents and thinking they're so smart to do that. And so to me, it's not just the talent base is much better than 2007 here.
Right.
Okay, but if you're saying if they lose the lowest point, I guess off the top of my head, I'd say 2007. Where are you at on that?
No, that was actually,
You're a much better historian with everything granular than I am on this stuff.
but I'm like, as you were answering, I was kind of like going quickly through my mind. I'm like, as I was listening, I was multitasking, like thinking, okay. And 2007 is because they were so dysfunctional under a first-year head coach, where immediately, very quickly, oh man, that was a bad head coaching hire. That's going to have to start all over again. I mean, there was that. The big issue this year is the expectations were
Yeah,
such,
yeah.
rightly or wrongly, that sitting here at 2-5 is just mind-boggling. Um, 2009 early on was a major bummer because they had made the playoffs and won the AFCs the previous year, and they started off 0-3 and then lose Chad Pennington to a shoulder injury. The only caveat there is you had it in, and for those who hate the strength of schedule, the Dolphins started off the season with 3 teams that made the playoffs the year before. It was a bear of an opening schedule, and they lost all 3 games, lost their starting quarterback, and it was like, oh boy, okay, this is the magic of 2008 is not repeating itself. Yeah, I can't.
Jay Cutler coming on board when Ryan Tannehill got hurt and that season going and knowing that the regime's going down, but it's completely different
correct.
than
It is
that.
different.
So
No, I can't. I mean, there have been lowest point. Yeah, I mean the individual games, but I mean the loss at Buffalo in the 2020 finale when they could have made the playoffs, lost at Tennessee in 2021, same deal. But I don't know. I mean, these were just like a more microscopic moment right now. If you look big picture, this is really really not good. This is not how it was supposed to go. And is it as simple as next off season? There doesn't need to be a major overhaul. You just make sure you address the backup quarterback situation better, tweak here and there, and then you're back to contention. Could it be that simple?
to me, the problems go a lot deeper than that. And again, I come back to you got to hit on drafts. And they traded draft picks away the last few years. They had the least draft capital over a 3-year period than any team in NFL history, meaning fewest draft picks and value and all that stuff. But you got to hit on those. I mean, they're getting nothing from Cam Smith, nothing from Linda, the
Kendall.
thank you. I don't even see. I don't even have to say his name so few that he doesn't pop in my head. And you can't win that way. You can't win that way in the NFL. You got to everything. The burden was on Chris Greer when they decided to tank. The full burden of the franchise was on Chris Greer, just as it would be anybody in that situation. More, but even more so because of the manner they were going about it. And I remember at the time thinking, what has he done to show that he can handle this? And so you give him the opportunity, and here we are saying, some of their decisions, and you could say, hey, it was Flora's decision and it was McDaniel's decision. But I come back to these are first time coaches, and you have this master plan. It falls on your football the head of football and the general manager, and to at times make sure that you're headed in the right direction. So yeah, to me, the problems go deeper than just, this season starts with not having that backup quarterback, but the problems go deeper moving forward.
Yeah, I think, but at this point right now, and I haven't looked at every single solitary move, but I would think if we were grading the offseason, it was butt ugly is the first term that comes to my mind. And it's not just because of the backup quarterbacks. It's also the fact you're getting nothing out of your first 2 draft picks, even though to me that seemed to be part of the vision. I think in their hope, it would be like, hopefully we don't need to lean on Chop Robinson too much. And then he
Yes.
provides us with a successor down the road when Bradley Chubb no longer is going to be there. Well, it didn't turn out that way because Jalen Phillips, even though he was able to come back, got hurt pretty quickly. And now they have very little. And then Shaq Barrett retired, which doesn't help either. And the second round pick, Patrick Paul, like you said, he's on scholarship. But they're not a great enough team organization to be able to have guys picked strictly for the future. I wrote that at the time of the draft.
That was good of you. I didn't see that. I didn't know that. I thought maybe they moved what their vision moved Patrick Paul to guard, somebody to guard for a year, to, as has Laramie Tunsil did that, then moved out to tackle. I mean, I thought there was some way to incorporate the talent now. I mean, you can't just say, like Austin Jackson, everybody, hey, that was a good pick because he's an average player now and you can win with that. But you wasted, I don't know, 2.5 years. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the first round, second round picks stepping in and playing right now. I mean, that happens across the NFL.
Whoa, bold idea.
I know. And I'm not on Chop Rock. I'm that's a difficult position to come into and make an impact on as a rookie. Few guys did. Jalen Phillips did at the end of his first year.
Correct.
You saw him coming on now, but he's a special player when healthy. He's a special player, or he can be. He was tracking to be a special player before injuries started to hit. So, again, problems go deeper, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and you mentioned Austin Jackson being like a quote unquote good first round pick. Here's my question: with all due respect to Austin, was he though? Because he was the 18th.
No,
correct. And that's part of the problem. And this is where the Dolphins didn't. They had 5 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2020. They had 4 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2021, and those 9 players very quickly: Tua, Austin Jackson, Noah Benogany, Robert Hunt, Raekwon Davis, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Liam Eichenberg.
There you go. There you go. That
not good enough. I would say
that sums up right there that list you read of what. And I'll add on to that. They had Minkah Fitzpatrick, and this is a major pet peeve of mine. He wanted out. They traded him. Austin Jackson became that pick. You have a Hall of Fame safety, and so again, you're piling problems on top of problems, but moving on, they haven't got anything enough out of recent drafts either, and so no matter how good a team you is, wherever you are, if you're not drafting well, your window is going to be very small.
Correct. And then we're going to close with one of those draft picks we mentioned. That would be Tua. And no, this is not going to be a referendum or debate on whether he was the good pick at number 5 overall in 2020, because that could be a whole episode unto itself, but rather discussing, and you wrote about this on Sun Sentinel, in the South Florida Sun Sentinel, on sunsentinel.com, Dave Hyde. I made my views very well known yesterday that him taking on fans. Actually, I had somebody suggested to me that maybe he was talking about the media when he was talking about it's not as easy as it looks for those sitting on the couch eating potato chips. Well, first, I don't eat potato chips.
I do.
See, there you go. So would it be as easy as that? And it's. I'm sorry. If you're, and this is something I didn't say yesterday, but I'm going to add it now. It kind of, I don't know if I'd say it's for it reeks of insecurity a little bit. I mean, a little defensive. Really, you need to be that bothered by people saying that you flubbed that shotgun snap. Again, you're a $55 million quarterback. it's okay to. I mean, if you made a mistake, if people are saying you should have had it, why does there need to be some sort of attack on fans or the media because you don't like being criticized for it?
Yeah, and to me, there's standards. Okay, and my thought is two is usually better than this. 95% of the time, he's better than this to call out fans and say they don't basically they don't understand how difficult it is to be an NFL. Well, why would they? We're not, or media. No, everybody knows how difficult it is from the contract that you're signing because only a handful of people in the world get those type of contracts. Okay, does that need to be stated? But there's standards on how to act and what to say, and even in answering honestly. And taking on fans, that's just a no-fly zone for players. You don't do that. And especially, my point is these fans, these Dolphin fans, who have put up with so much in the past quarter century. We've gone over some of it today. I mean, the fact that this is just a fascinating fan base. They're always so optimistic. They're always so into their team when they've been giving such little shreds of hope to go on, and to back the tractor over them. I thought was way out of line. Okay, again, there are standards on how to act, and I think he's better than this. I'd like to, I hope he's better than this. Just like there are standards on franchise quarterbacks. Okay, and he's got to pick his game up to meet that standard. Okay, but this was I didn't like to hear that coming from him.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I have no issue with athletes of any sport defending themselves against over the top, out of bounds attacks or insults. Sure. That's fair game to me. But because you were criticized for not handling a shotgun snap, it's a little bit much for me. And again, Tua's got.
I got to admit, and Alan, let me say this: I'm sure it was. I put in my column somewhere in there, paragraph 12 or 15, that 3 fumbles, and this was one of them. And this was a vitally expensive one in the game, but it wasn't like I wrote or anybody that I saw. There was this groundswell that Tua cost him the game, or even a groundswell that what an awful handling of that snap. I'm sure it was out there, but it wasn't like it was theme 1, 2, or 3 from the game. I don't think.
No, but you will have a certain segment of Dolphin fans,
sure,
those
right.
don't like Tua, who are going to look at anything and be like, yeah, he cost us the game. When, like you said, no, he didn't cost him the game. Just like, again, this is the one extreme or the other. No, he didn't cost him the game. No, he wasn't as brilliant as some pundits have suggested to me. He was solid. It was a good effort. It's a good BB plus performance. But again, to me, it was kind of typical Tua, except for the snapping issues. But yeah, he needs to be better than that. He needs to be better. He's going to have to be better on the field Sunday if the Dolphins are going to be able to beat the Bills.
Agreed.
Well, on that note, I mean, how better could we wrap up this episode than that with the old agreed? Everyone, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share all the stuff you do on podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, it's also available on audio podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Dave Hyde, thank you very much, my friend. Enjoy your Halloween evening, Halloween weekend.
What costume are you going to pick tonight?
I don't know. The problem is
it's a game time decision, huh?
It is. They're very nice. Yes. Game time decision. The man has no costume. Probably that ship has sailed because I think the reference points a little in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
We shall see. Anyway, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for watching. Until we meet again. Have a good one.